Hi, Rick Tharp with RX Kinetics with another Kinetics program demonstration. This time I'd like to go over patient retrieval and performing serum level analysis. So let's begin by logging in with our initials. We click Accept Disclaimer. And we're brought to the Patient Data tab. And on the data bar, there are several different ways for retrieving a patient. We can use the browse buttons on either end of the data bar. We can go next, which takes you through, steps you through the database one record at a time. We can use the skip buttons at the end, which will take you to the first and the last records in the database. And the last record is the one that's the most recently added. If you have a moderate number of patients, you can use the patient list function here. Click list. Pops up an alphabetical list of patients. Then you select the patients you want to view, these records you want to view, and then double click. If you have several hundred patients, you may need to use the seek function. Click the seek button, then type in 3 or 4 letters or numbers. You can seek by name, medical record, or location. If a record is found that matches your search spec, but it's not the record you want, you'll notice the Seek Next button is activated. You can click that, and it'll find the next match. In this case, there is no next match. If there were, it would be displayed on the screen. So let's assume this is the right patient, but we need to edit the data. Let's say that we have patient has gained some weight today, and let's say that their creatinine has gone up a little bit. And because we are using the Jelif multi-step method, you'll notice that creatinine clearance has changed, because that method is the only one that adjusts for a rising serum creatinine. Well, let's click Save now that our changes have been. And now we select our drug model. So let's dose some vancomycin for our old friend Joe Satriani. Although we're doing serum level analysis, I always like to look at the prospective dosing tab just to see what the population model is going to predict for a dose. So let's start entering our serum level data. Click the serum level analysis tab. Click on method. In this case, we're going to use the traditional, or not traditional, but the more commonly used 2-point peak and trough method. That is, you draw a trough before a dose, you give the dose, and then draw a peak after the dose. So our patient received a gram every 12 hours for 4 doses. And the dose that we drew levels around started this morning at 10 o'clock and ended at 11. It's an hour-long infusion. The trough was a little low, and it was drawn 30 minutes before the dose. The peak was 22.5, which was drawn at 12:30. And we'll click the Calculate button. And we'll notice the first thing that comes up is, do you wish to apply the Bayesian algorithm? Bayesian is an option in any of the steady state methods. I recommend that you first click No, see what parameters are calculated, what PK parameters are calculated based solely on levels data. In this case, it's calculating the half-life of 4.1, a VD of 36.8. And then we'll do Bayesian. And in a nutshell, what Bayesian does is it takes the population model and includes it with the serum level data. It doesn't just throw the population model away. It uses the population model along with the standard deviation of each of the parameters, combines that with the serum level data and the standard deviations of it to come up with a hybrid of both. And in this case, per Bayesian method, calculates a little longer half-life of 5.3 and a VD of 55.5. You can find more information on Bayesian in the help file and on the website. It's really too much to go into right now. Just like on the prospective tab, you can change your vancomycin targets. For example, if you have an infusion length that's different than your model, you can change it here. In this case, it's recommending 1569 every 11 hours. So let's enter a practical dose, 1500 Q12. We'll come up with a peak and trough of 28 and 7.6. Those are pretty good numbers. And let's assume we have an MIC of 5. We can see that our time over MIC is 100%. And if we're satisfied with that dose, looking at those numbers, then we can come up here and look at a serum level graph. This is a plot of serum level and MIC. And this shows the approach to steady state, but because it's such a small change from what's been measured, you don't really see much of a change there. So if we're satisfied with that dose, let's go to the Pharmaceutical Care tab. And like our previous demonstration, we can change this to something that you would rather say there. So let's take a look at that consult, and I'd like to emphasize once again how important it is to print the consult. You don't necessarily have to print a hard copy, but at least preview the consult, because that is the trigger that the program uses to save that consult. And it's important to save your work, what you've done, a record of what you've done. Change the preview here so we can more screen here. This is what your preview or your report's got. Your serum level data at the top, and I've just changed the zoom. Way to go, Rick. Shows your dosage recommendations, your predicted peak and trough, your pharmaceutical care plan, and a nice color graph, and that will print in color if you have a color printer. Let's exit out of there. So that is an overview of how to retrieve a patient and how to perform serum level analysis.